Well, it's coming out pretty fast. But I don't think this is 48 belts. I think I'm using these pilers a bit wrong. Yeah, I'm probably using them wrong. Hello, this is Umabel bringing you Dyson Sphere program. The Icarus update just happened a few days ago, which introduced a few new mechanics, sphere improvements, etc. Anyway, there are 3 changes I want to briefly mention here and my current opinion on them. In my opinion, the most disruptive change is the introduction of the proliferator mechanic. Basically, you can invest some of your limited, and it will be limited, resources to increase any step of your production at your choosing. In my humble opinion, as a late gamer, this is not worth the effort in the early game, and there's not a single item that I know of that benefits from this extra products buff, because infinite resources, just production speed all the way. So there may be some steps that benefit from the increased items, as that might change some factory ratios or open up direct insertion routes. For example, like processors direct inserted here. So the benefit might doing it that way may be better than the expected 25%. Regardless, those might be difficult nuggets to spot. Obviously, this is going to be a lot to think about and go through. Also, not every item is worth buffering. Clearly, white cubes is probably worth buffering, given the extra hashes that's supposed to give, while others might be a little bit more questionable, like ores, or buffering hydrogen to give more Casimir crystals. It's constantly changing. Players are figuring out which items should get buffed and which should be left alone. So in due time, players will figure out which should be which. The next big change is belt piling. Basically, belt max throughput has been increased from 1800 to 7200 4 times using the mechanic known as piling. On close inspection, you will clearly see the difference between a normal item and a piled item. And given that the research is done, then the logistics stations can also automatically output piled belts, which is definitely convenience. It also stands to reason that the capacity of the logistics stations have been increased, as well as packing more drones into the interstellar stations, and the capacity of the drones in the vessels are also increased as well. Unfortunately, sorters themselves don't pile into belts, so you're going to have to rely on these buildings called pilers. Probably some layout adjustments to fully exploit the increased cap. To me, the bottom line is logistics lists can get a whole lot shorter via piling. Imagine 4 stations handling the same product, all being condensed into a single station. The last change to mention here is advanced miners. These are a welcome addition if you know what it is like to mine at these large scales. 9 belt ports, all piled. Drone output is an option, and it starts at 180 per minute per vein, and it scales with veins utilization. So very good. My only quip is it would have been perfect if it was had 12 belt ports, but please don't kill me for that. Fortunately, if I wanted those last 3 belts, I could just I can overlap miners with the advanced miner as well. Yeah, so that's doable too. Proliferators will have to wait. For now, I am testing automatic pilers to see how to turn a normal belt into a piled belt. So a normal belt will, you know, combine into a piled belt, and then it'll go straight into a single ILS. Yeah, it's quite a disaster. The sorters, again, they don't pile into a belt, only one at a time. So I'm gonna have to rely on these pilers. So let's start a run here. So I just deleted a massive amount of ingots. Thank you, storage capacity. So I'll just keep constantly deleting it because it's going extremely fast. So what's happening is, as far as pilers go, whenever the piler notices that it has a full belt, and if it can do it, it'll just, you know, take some items, you know, stack and pile them together. Oops, excuse me, pile, and you'll have you'll end up with an empty space. So what should happen is that we get a full belt on the left side of the piler, and down on the right side you have, well, half a full belt. But so you can see the disaster of this experiment that's happening here. Just because, so we make a full belt. Make a full belt after these 15 smelters, then it turns into half a belt. You don't want half a belt on the next 15 smelters. You want a empty belt. Hence, that's the problem with this this layout. That's why this layout's a disaster. I mean, it's making a lot, just not enough. So I'm gonna have to figure out a new way to do this. I'm gonna start from the beginning. Otherwise, the goal is pretty simple. It's to take 12 stacked belts of this iron ore, and turn it into 12 stacked belts of iron ingots. Emptying out the iron ingots. This is probably gonna take a while. After every of these pilers, there's some empty spaces for the sorters to fill up. But after a while, it quickly fills up, and all these smelters are then output stacked. Wow, this is taking a very long time. Okay, let's start with a simple layout. This is our usual 12 belts of iron ingots. The only difference that I made here is that it accepts 3 stacked belts as opposed to, you know, just 12. I have this interesting belt marking here for iron. So it'll come out normally 12 belts of iron ingots. So what I'm just going to focus on is trying to turn those 12 output belts into 3 stacked belts somehow. I've made my 4 full belts, and for the most part that should add up to about 7,200 a minute. Now let's see if we can get that into an ILS at the same rate with just 1 belt. Alright, first thing to try is to have them each go through pilers individually. Let's see what that comes out to. And it comes out to more or less what's expected. The full belt goes to the piler, and then the piler turns it into half a full belt with some piled item, with a piled item after it. There's some slight output stacking going on here. It's probably probably some sort of strange error going on here. I'll have to address that later. But more or less, this is what's going on. So now let's see what happens if I were to combine these two half full belts. So that should now give you 3,600. So they both combine. So far, so good. Okay, so let's see what kind of stacking we get when they go through their own piler. And the behavior appears to be the same again. Full belt turns into a half full belt. So can I combine these now? It appears that given the right circumstances, the piler will take a pile of 2 items and pile them together into a pile of 4 items. And sometimes it might pile 3, but most of the time what I'm seeing here is it's piling 2 to 4. So it'll be no surprise that when you combine 2 half full belts 4 stack, you'll get 1 full belt 4 stack. As far as I can tell, I would turn 4 belts into one 4 pile belt in using 6 pilers. Assuming that's what I'm going to go with, then I'll just see if I can make something smaller. I think I got something here. Let's give this a shot. So it's as short as possible. Probably a better way, though. Probably always is. Oh, errors, huh? Okay. Okay, just had to redo the blueprint. So if it all works out, it should come up to 7,200 a minute. Fingers crossed. Just to be sure, let's see what happens if we delete the 2 pilers and rely on the 4 pilers to do, all the piling. From the looks of it, it's not working. It looks like you do need 6 automatic pilers to combine 4 into 1. As far as I can tell.